Hello, everyone. Welcome once again to the Adventures Travel Club television show. We find ourselves in Lillehammer, and Lillehammer, of course, is located in Norway, which I'm sure that you all know about by now. And we're passing part of the old Olympic Village, and we're heading on up to the ski jump, I think, which is probably the main attraction now, of course, after the Olympics are over with. Betty, you want to get up there and do a practice run?
No, I'm not a skier. Thank you. And
Well, you don't have to be a skier. You can just be a jumper. But you don't want to do
thanks.
that. Okay.
And you can see the levels that the best jumpers arrived at. They have marked those. They have the freestyle hill, and part of the area here is today used still for practicing ski jumping. You can see one of them is covered with this green stuff. Every Saturday they still have practice jumps from here. And if you look in the middle, you can see the cone sticking up from the stone bit here. This is where they lit the Olympic fire. And it was a ski jumper that jumped down the ski jump with it. Actually, the first chap who was supposed to do it obviously got ill, so it was another ski jumper that did it. He jumped with the Olympic fire, passed it on to Crown Prince Håkan, who then ran up and lit the fire at the top there. And coming into any of the towns here, Lillehammer or Hamar or Gjøvik, it was very, very beautiful, because at the entrance of each of the towns they had a little fire there also. A little part of the Olympic fire. Will fly down and fighting, and the whole symbolism that the good won, but only just that in life is always a good and a bad side, and hopefully the good will win, but there is always this double-sidedness. And the idea was, well, here we have the Olympic Games, and it's nations that are competing, but it really is, we're all human beings, and we'll be cheering the best person, no matter what the nationality. Yes, would you like to try?
Yeah.
Skis.
We're going to stop for just a moment.
We're going to stop, yes. We will be stopping here, yes. And if you want to, we'll stop long enough so that if you want to, you can take the lift up to the top and take a look. Take the lift back down again.
Well, here we are, and if you want to strap on a pair of jumping skis, you can try it here on this right-hand side, and look at, there's the marks right there. I see just how well you can do. I wonder what the red thing is there. That must mean very good.
Danger.
Yeah, but
That would, of course, they wouldn't show with the snow on it, but you know.
Well, this is the practice. This
it
is the
looks
practice
wicked.
One. Well, yeah,
I mean,
you've got
wicked to
you've got to be in pretty good shape too. But these kids look like they were about like 13 years old. The ones that were jumping. I mean, they're real young.
Probably doing it since they were
kids.
6.
Could be. I'll tell you. But well, of course, this is very native to the kids here too. So
everybody wants to be in the not true. Not everybody, but
wants to be
many
in the Olympics?
people would like to be in the Olympics.
This is the main jump, of course, right here, the main area, and that what you see right down in the middle, that does not do the measuring as far as how far they're jumped. That is a sprinkler system. So
to water the snow.
to water the snow, right?
Yeah.
Make it green. Have you ever seen green snow
nice,
before?
Have it
Yeah.
watered in the
No, but that's so. I imagine though, again, come time for the winter sports, that a lot of people would just be doing that too.
Look at that person going up the side of there.
Mhm.
I mean, he's not just walking.
No, he's running.
Hi,
up there.
Peg.
There's Peggy and Verna, and they're going to go the easy way up, and come down the easy way also in the.
I'm a
in the
good
chair.
stair climber.
Are you?
I didn't do these, but I do like to climb
I didn't get
stairs
halfway up these, and I got.
because they're good for your heart.
Yeah, if you do that on a regular basis, I suspect.
And that I do.
You do a lot of
I
walking,
do
don't
lots
you? Yeah.
and lots of walking. Yeah.
Do you do the stairs a lot too?
I do as much stairs as I can. I don't. When I'm in a building, I never take the elevator. I take the stairs.
You ever-
Unless it's the
Empire State Building.
And
Careful,
then
you're going to catch
forget
yourself
that.
there.
Yeah.
Right. And this, I think, is probably one of the judges' stands that we can see here too. A lot of measurements that have to go on during this, and there's the gallery over there where you would be sitting and watching the jumpers from.
takes a lot of imagination when you come over and see it in this condition, and to visualize what it would be like with all the snow. And then you see it with the snow, and it's hard to, to remember, actually.
You know, but it's like Carol's saying, too. I mean, you have to visualize that this place during the Olympics was so jammed with people.
Yeah.
And the pictures, of course, that we saw from the Olympics were magnificent. And of course, with all of the folks there, it was just absolutely incredible.
Well, I think all of us watch the Olympics. I know I do. I watched the ones from Japan this year, and I think these athletes are awesome. I think to get up to well, I feel that way too about the divers when they get off on the really high platform. You know.
Yeah.
Oh,
Give me
gosh.
oxygen, please.
Yeah, my heart's in my mouth. And people, they do get hurt.
Well,
was it
that's
Peekaboo
true.
the other day? Or not the other day, but Peekaboo that had broken her leg and then went back and broke it again. So sad.
Well, once you're in competition like this too, I mean that's your driving force, I believe. You know, they're just
course, like
you've
she said,
trained and trained and trained and trained and sacrificed so
yes.
much, you know, for it.
But if you get hurt over there, it doesn't cost you anything anyway.
Yeah, well,
at least you can go to the doctor por nada.
That's what they say, right?
Yeah.
There's the, of course, that was where the Olympic torch was, the Olympic flame, on that piece of sculpture down there. But look, now, see, I'm not even halfway up, Betty, and you can see how steep it is even at this point right here.
Let me ask you something about Olympics. I truly do watch them and have been interested in them for many years, but will this ever be used again, or will it only be if they get the bid for it?
Well, that's a good question. I don't know when they would come back to Norway to do the Olympics. I would imagine, though, that probably a lot of for the next Winter Olympics, that a lot of the people would, jumpers would be training here. So it'd be a good training facility too. And remember the one that we also saw in Oslo. The ski jump there that's up over the city there. I would imagine that a lot of the kids probably train on that as well.
That was not the site of the Olympics, right?
That was
in
at
Oslo,
one time.
Was it?
At one time, yeah.
But I heard
oh, here we go.
Here
we
go.
There we are. Yeah, how about that? Oh, look at that. Well, and then into the sand.
To stop them.
Yeah. I just wonder what that does to the bottom of your ski. So here's a jumper that's going up there. There were quite a few jumpers this day. I was surprised because this was not supposedly the day that the kids go up and do the jumping. But, who knows? Maybe they're practicing all the time. And in the background, way over there, you can see some of what she called the halls. The ice skating hall was over there. And now here our sprinklers are going on, Betty. So kids are going to have to wait for a little bit before they can
I guess none of this goes to waste anyway, because you have people from surrounding areas that would come, and you have vacationers that would still come and want to do the skiing. It would never have had to be that extensive as it is now, but
well, these countries, they put an awful lot of money into this, and it's a big venture for them. And of course, this one did pay off for Norway, which was very good.
That was good. I think Japan didn't fare quite so well.
Well, maybe they need to discover oil like Norway did. There he comes. Well, he made it as safe and sound anyway, huh? I would hate to flip-flop on that, Snow would be a little easy, but I don't know.
Do you think they charge them for practicing there? There has to be a certain amount of maintenance.
Somebody would have to pay for it, I suspect, yeah. So maybe it's these are jumping clubs,
or
I'm
you
not
get
sure.
a pass and pay $5 or whatever.
Well, I think these kids are training. I don't think they're doing it just for the fun of it, but I think they're actually training, so I'm sure that there's probably some sort of sports association that picks up the tab on that.
Yeah.
But I don't know. You just wouldn't get me doing that, I don't think.
Not
on
you
purpose.
Don't think?
Not on purpose. Yeah,
sure,
you're right.
For sure. You
okay, look at this guy, and away he goes. Let's see how well he does on this one. Oh, good.
How was his form?
You mean you're going to let me be one of the judges so I could judge the form that he...
No, I don't think
listen, I don't know. As long as he got down to the bottom in one piece, I think that's pretty good form. Don't you think so? And didn't fall. Here we have some more of them coming down, and this is exciting to watch, though. It really is, even though there's no snow there.
Now, Marv, why don't
Whoa,
you run
look
it
at that.
backwards? It would be fun to see them
Does
go
it go
back
backwards?
up and
Yeah.
come on down again. Come on down.
Come on down. They're doing pretty well. I imagine that these kids, like you say, have probably been at it for some time. Really, here comes another one. Let's see how this guy does. Up,
They're
up,
very
and
courageous.
away. That's a good jump.
Would have been more fun if you'd come down on skis, but I'm glad somebody came down on skis.
You would have seen the most perfect
But I see how
snowflower
the
in the
people
world.
dress when they go up on skis. So.
No, I realized the only reason that you didn't do it was because you didn't want to be topless on the way up.
Yeah,
right.
Yes. I understand.
So we didn't have any volunteers in our group because no one wanted to be topless. So that was
I think there was a little bit more reason than that.
I
but,
think so, too.
I'll settle for that.
you just look at me and I know I would just be chicken. That's all. So
No,
anyway,
that's sensible. If you don't know how and you haven't the desire, then you don't do it.
I should hope
I mean,
not.
really.
That's where people get into trouble.
Common
you know?
sense.
Yeah, but a lot of people today don't use
Don't
common
use
sense. You know.
You're right.
Right. So anyway, well, here we're going to leave the ski jump area and we're going to go down into the little village of Lillehammer. And this was a real treat for me because I didn't know quite what to expect. I've been to other places, you know, where they've had the Olympics, and they weren't really quite as, I want to say, quite as picturesque or beautiful as this is, at least the ones that I visited in the past. But I was very, very well impressed with this area.
But you know, Marv, probably when you were there, you would have said the same. Oh, this is spectacular. This is so.
Well, maybe it
Because
depends.
It really does.
But I have to say that this is more spectacular.
Then okay.
Yeah,
But
okay.
but it's really true because every time you go some, I don't mean you, anybody goes a place
Mhm.
for the first time.
Yeah.
And you see the splendor of it, or
Uh-huh.
even no, not the negativity, but we always say, "Oh, isn't this beautiful? Isn't this wonderful?"
Well, first impressions too. In fact, impressions. I want to just impress upon us that we just are looking at the two other halls right here, and that's the ski rink, of course. That that a
rink?
lot of you. Yeah, well, that's.
Is that what they
Is
call
that what
it?
you call it?
Ski
That's
lift,
what we used to. No,
LIFT.
the rink, where you skate
That's
around.
an ice skating
The ice skating
not
rink,
a
right?
ski rink.
Oh, is that what I said?
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. Well, see,
I think it would be
It-
hard
it was
to
the
bring your
altitude, it
skis-
got me.
I think it would be hard to bring your skis in there.
I'm sorry, skating rink.
I'm sure
Skating
you
rink.
said
You're
that
right.
because
You're right.
I-
Okay.
of course,
Well, that's the way that it goes.
it'd be fun to watch, wouldn't it?
Yeah, sure would. Oh, talk about people not using good sense, and I'd be the first one right there.
Right now, they tell you a lot of jokes about. No, it's about who are the really funny jokes? Polish people, they tell.
Oh,
jokes
that
on it.
yeah.
It's the
That-
Swedes. I
Well,
think,
well, that's true. Well, and I know my grandfather used to say, 10,000 Swedes running through the weeds, chased by one Norwegian. In fact, I think there was a little song to that at one time. So, yeah, they
well,
they have fun
they
with that.
make fun with each other.
That's true. Let's listen to Carol.
And now we're down in Lillehammer. You can see the old houses. Many of the houses, even here in the city centre, are wooden houses. It's only the very wealthy that could afford stone houses. So again, timber was the most usual material to build the houses in. Oh, looks pretty empty, doesn't it?
Sunday.
Try to imagine that. Wall-to-wall people.
Betty, the Norwegian language has undergone a lot of changes. In reality, the country has really two official languages. The Riksmål, which is a further development of the Dano-Norwegian, and the Landsmål, which may be considered as a common denominator of all Norwegian dialects and is largely based on the Old Norse language. But both are recognized as official and both are taught in the schools.
Now that's why I had you give all that information because you do it so well.
Well, an educated Norwegian understands both Swedish and Danish, but some of the Norwegian dialects are so different from Riksmål that a city dweller may have difficulty in making himself understood by people from other parts of the country. So, it's just like probably like some of our language here. but this may be just a little bit more difficult.
More difficult.
Yeah.
How do you do with it?
How, what, with the Norwegian language? Not at all. No.
Well, I must say that's
not
a
at all.
very honest response.
not
I
at
thought
all.
you, but you just fake it then, huh?
That's true.
Here's, the question was, can you swim in it? Yes. It's not in any way fed with icy cold water from any rivers. This is a lake that will warm up in the summertime, so people use it to bathe in. Yeah. Hours ride. And that's quite good for an Olympic, Winter Olympics.
Carol's talking about is the other city or the other town of Hamar, which we're just close to right now. So we'd have to look down the road. However, we're not that close, but we're close enough. So as she says, it's pretty good for Olympics, Winter Olympics, to be able to share with both of those particular towns.
If you look to the left, there's a very big farming complex there. That's a school for farmers. But in many cases, yes, we've been passing dairies, we've been passing large farms. We're getting further south now, and the farms are much larger here in this part of Norway than they are on the west coast.
We're not going to see much in the way of waterfalls anymore because we're now heading in this other direction. Actually, we're heading toward Sweden. You know, we were talking about language just a little bit ago, and some of the readings that I had done, rather, stated that a number of English words in the present dialect, such as rod, knife, etc., like that, probably came into use through returning soldiers of fortune. And you know, I imagine that probably went back even further in the Viking days, when the Vikings came back from all of the various areas of the world that they visited. I imagine that they brought some of the language with them as well.
I would think so, and probably brought some women with them, you know, which would be important too for the intermingling and their customs and their way of doing things, which would be very important.
Sure.
And that's progress.
That's progress. But to progress, you have to travel a little bit, right?
We found that out.
Right. You have to get some learning there somewhere, as they say. So that's one great way to do it, and that is a great way. I think the best education in the world is probably just going out and being able to travel and visit other countries and talk with other people and see how everybody else lives. That's such a great, exciting thing to do.
I think it is too, if you go with an open mind and understand people aren't the same everywhere,
No.
and adjust to their cultures and understand what they are trying to accomplish. Doesn't have to be what you are used to having done, you know?
No, that's right.
You have to grow up.
Mm-hmm.
Later in the summer, it starts getting darker during the evening, and we will have lamps outside the doors, but we'll also have lamps, little lamps in all the windows, and especially the kitchen window. And of course, especially during the dark months, the autumn and winter and early spring months, we feel that it's very cozy to come home to a house where there is a little light hanging outside the front door and a few lights in the house. Even if we're not at home, we'll leave a few of the lights on just so it looks nice when we get home. Warm glow that welcomes you home.
It is so interesting, though, when it's so light, you know, at 11, 12 o'clock at night. There's my moose crossing sign, and I tried very difficult shooting, trying to get these things out of the window because they came up without any warning. Anyway, and there is the border. Now we are now crossing into Sweden. That's a Sweden-Norwegian border right there.
The next sign says that we are in the commune, the council of Malung.
Now you notice as we cross the border, all of a sudden the roads changed a little bit. You see a lot of patchwork here. Now remember, Norway has some pretty good roads, and a lot of that I think is due to the oil that was discovered there, and so the roads are pretty good condition. We get into better roads later on in Sweden. But
Wait just a minute. The oil is it's due to the oil being. You
Oh,
mean
they're
the
able to-
money that
yeah,
that we
able to
they
keep
were
the
able
roads
to
up.
get from
Sure.
the oil revenue.
Mhm, that's right.
I didn't think they just poured oil on.
Oh,
it.
no, not on the road. Carol's going to explain a little bit about the languages here in Sweden.
The only place that comes to mind is Stockholm and Oslo. Stockholm is Stockholm, also in Swedish, and Oslo is, well, Oslo is Oslo. It's very close. But otherwise, you'll very often find that the capitals and the bigger places will have an English or a French or a German version.
Well, it's interesting to note that I think a lot of these people, well, like Carol, now she speaks, several of these languages besides English. And, Betty, do you remember when we were over in Finland? In Finland, the second language is Swedish. First language, of course, naturally being Finnish, but the second language is Swedish. And all the street signs that we saw and all the signs that were announcing this, that, and the other were in Finnish, and then they were also in Swedish. So I guess, if you live in close proximity like this, you should probably learn
both languages.
Yeah, learn both languages or more than one.
Are they comparable? I mean, do the sounds have the
Swedish
same?
and Norwegian and Danish are somewhat similar. Now, somebody could probably correct me on that, but the sound is, somewhat similar. But when you get over to Finland, no.
That's
totally different. It sounds more like Hungarian, and it's related more to that language from what I understand, so it's completely different. Here we see, just after we cross the border, just a few miles in, lots and lots of ski areas here in Sweden. Just absolutely magnificent. I mean, we drove, and I think we hit about 7 or 8 different entrances for different ski areas. They're just
Every time you see
Bingo.
the bare place, there's trees around, but the bare area,
We know it's
It's like when you're in Europe. ABC, another bloody castle. AB, what would you say? Another bloody ski lift.
Ski lift,
okay?
right? Or ski slope.
ABS.
Something like. Careful,
Whatever.
you're going to get yourself in big trouble.
I'm
you know
stop
that?
right now.
Yeah, okay. And here's an entrance to another one right here too. But this was very impressive because I didn't realize that Sweden has as much skiing areas that they do have. And I was been told that the Norwegians sometimes will go down to Switzerland to go skiing because it's a lot cheaper than staying in Scandinavia. But Carol wants to explain to us a little bit about how the Swedish government came around. And remember, she is a Swedish citizen, so she has her
Prejudices.
own opinion. Yeah.
A very strong queen who was reigning for first her husband and since for her son. Her name was then Margaret, and we have now named her Margaret the First because we now have a new Margaret, and she's then Margaret the Second. But in the 1520s, there was a nobleman in Sweden who decided it was time to liberate the Swedes. And he tried to, by traveling all through the country, convince the young men and the farmers that they should not pay tax to the Danish king, that they should liberate themselves. But unfortunately for him, the feeling was, we daren't do that. We know that the Danish king is very strong. His name was Christian II, and in Denmark he was called Christian the Good because he worked very much for the farmers, whereas the earlier kings had cooperated with the nobility. This man thought, no, the farmers haven't really got enough money. We should help the farmers and never mind about the nobility. But in Sweden, he is known as Christian the Gruesome, or Christian the Bloody. You will hear about him on the Stockholm sightseeing tour, no doubt, because he invited, when he heard that there was an uproar on its way against him, and he invited noblemen from all over Sweden to a party in Stockholm, and he fed them, and he locked the gates, and he beheaded them. Now what the Swedish history books write is, of course, or was at that time, propaganda. And even the Swedish professors are accepting this today, but it has taken right up until today to face this fact. Because Gustav Vasa, as this man later became, he became the King of Sweden. But wait for it. He, as I said, traveled around trying to get people together, and they said no, and he knew that the Danish king's men were right behind him during the winter time, So he got on his skis and was about to flee. This was his last point in Mora. That was the last point before the Danish king's men caught up with him. So he fled on skis when the men of Mora said no, the Dalecarlians, and off he went on his skis. But the Dalecarlians got together again and talked about it and changed their mind and chased after him and caught up with him at Sälen. So therefore it has become a historical route as such. Anyway, Gustav Vasa became the king of Sweden eventually. He got enough support and he took over the power, and he is the man that we can thank for our high taxes today. He started our social security system that meant that we had to register all births and deaths and so on. He took care that we were reformed. Instead of being Catholic, he turned us into Lutherans, Protestants. And whereas it may have been an advantage in Norway, what he did here was ruin a lot of our history, because he took all the books that the monks had written in the cloisters and used those to fill out his tax forms. So all of these beautiful books that the monks had written, priceless books today they would have been, well, they have been used by Gustav Vasa to write down how much everybody should pay in tax, because he taxed the people in Sweden higher than the Danish king had ever done. This they didn't learn in the history lessons until recently, but now they realize that Gustav Vasa was not too nice, because what he did was he also came back to Dalarna, this area, and had his revenge on the people who didn't support him to begin with. First he taxed them highly. He took all the silver and gold that the churches had, and he said, we need this to build up our country. And he built very strong castles all over the country, and they had to be strongholds. They were not beautiful castles. They were meant to keep the people out and him inside safe, because he taxed them very, very hard. And those who would start grumbling and who hadn't supported him right from the start and who hadn't lost their heads under Christian II lost their heads now, I can assure you. So he killed more people in Sweden than the Danish king had ever done. But this is a side that hasn't really come up to the surface until in the 20th century.
Well, now we have a little history about that. You know, it's just about time for us to go, and we do want to remind you that we have a lot of interesting trips coming up, so if you're interested in any of those trips, we would advise you to get in touch with Betty, and her number is
488-7443.
Right, or you can write to us at the Adventures Travel Club, 1550 North Fresno Street, Fresno, California. It's time for us to say goodbye. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.